Section 4, Alexander Hamilton and the Federalist Party. George Washington's warnings did not stop the rise of political parties in the young nation. The Federalist Party appeared first during the debates over the ratification of the Constitution. Its most influential leader was Washington's energetic Treasury Secretary, Alexander Hamilton. Personal background: Hamilton was born in the West Indies and raised on the Caribbean island of St. Croix. When Hamilton was 13, a devastating hurricane struck the island. Hamilton wrote a vivid description of the storm that impressed all who read it. A few St. Croix leaders arranged to send the talented teenager to New York, where he could get the education he deserved. Once in America, Hamilton never looked back. Hamilton's blue eyes were said to turn black when he was angry, but most of the time they sparkled with intelligence and energy. With no money or family connections to help him rise in the world, he made his way on ability, ambition, and charm. George Washington spotted Hamilton's talents early in the American Revolution. Washington made the young man his aide-de-camp, or personal assistant. Near the end of the war, Hamilton improved his fortunes by marrying Elizabeth Schuyler, who came from one of New York's richest and most powerful families. With her family's political backing, Hamilton was elected to represent New York in Congress after the war. Later, he served as a delegate from New York to the Constitutional Convention. View of human nature. Hamilton's view of human nature was shaped by his wartime experiences. All too often, he had seen people put their own interests and desire for personal profit above the cause of patriotism and the needs of the country. Every man ought to be supposed a knave, scoundrel, he concluded, and to have no other end, goal, in all his actions but private interest. Most Federalists shared Hamilton's view that people were basically selfish and out for themselves. For this reason, they distrusted any system of government that gave too much power to the mob or to the common people. Such a system, said Hamilton, could only lead to error, confusion, and instability. Views on government. Federalists believed that the best people, educated, wealthy, public-spirited men like themselves, should run the country. Such people, they believed, had the time, education, and background to run the country wisely. They could also be trusted to make decisions for the general good, not just for themselves. Those who own the country, said Federalist John J. Bluntly, ought to govern it. Federalists favored a strong national government. They hoped to use the new government's powers under the Constitution to unite the quarreling states and keep order among the people. In their view, the rights of states were not nearly as important as national power and unity. Hamilton agreed. Having grown up in the Caribbean, Hamilton had no deep loyalty to any state. His country was not New York, but the United States of America. He hoped to see his adopted country become a great and powerful nation. Views on the economy. Hamilton's dream of national greatness depended on the United States developing a strong economy. In 1790, the nation's economy was still based mainly on agriculture. Hamilton wanted to expand the economy and increase the nation's wealth by using the power of the federal government to promote business, manufacturing, and trade. Before this could happen, the new nation needed to begin paying off the huge debts that Congress and the states had accumulated during the American Revolution. In 1790, Hamilton presented Congress with a plan to pay off all war debts as quickly as possible. If the debts were not promptly paid, he warned, the government would lose respect both at home and abroad. Hamilton's plans for repaying the debts was opposed by many Americans, especially in the South. Most Southern states had already paid their war debts. They saw little reason to help states in the North pay off what they still owed. To save his plan, Hamilton linked it to another issue, the location of the nation's permanent capital. Both Northerners and Southerners wanted the capital to be located in their section of the country. Hamilton promised to support a location in the South if Southerners would support his debt plan. The debt plan was passed, and the nation's new capital, called the District of Columbia, was located in the South, on the Potomac River between Maryland and Virginia. Next, Hamilton asked Congress to establish a national bank. Such a bank, Hamilton said, would help the government by collecting taxes and helping keeping those funds safe. It would print paper money backed by the government, giving the nation a stable currency. Most important, the bank would make loans to business people to build new factories and ships. As business and trade expanded, Hamilton argued all Americans would be better off. Once again, Hamilton's proposal ran into heavy opposition. Where in the Constitution, his opponents asked, was Congress given the power to establish a bank? In their view, Congress could exercise only those powers specifically listed in the Constitution. Hamilton, in contrast, supported a loose construction or broad interpretation of the Constitution. He pointed out that the elastic clause allowed Congress to make all laws which shall be necessary and proper for carrying out its listed powers. Since collecting taxes was one of those powers, Congress could set up a bank to help the government with tax collection. After much debate, Hamilton was able to get his bank approved by Congress. Once established in 1791, the Bank of the United States helped the nation's economy grow and prosper. Views on Great Britain and France. When the French Revolution began, Hamilton hoped that it would lead to the establishment of free and good government, but as he watched it lead instead to chaos and bloodshed, his enthusiasm for the revolution cooled. When war broke out between France and England in 1793, most Federalists sided with Great Britain. Some were merchants and shippers whose business depended on trade with America's former enemy. Others simply felt more comfortable supporting orderly Great Britain against revolutionary France. Hamilton favored Great Britain for yet another reason. Great Britain was all that he hoped the United States would become one day, a powerful and respected nation that could defend itself against any enemy.